cool. Okay, let's get through this quick. You all know what we're doing. It's a new life event. I'm Shauna Siegel. I'm your host, CEO of One Choice for Your Store, host of Become Experts on Webmaster Radio, and I love education. This is so much fun. We're helping people grow the business. That's what the new life event is all about. Special thank you. Please say thank you to our speakers because they are providing us education that is like blowing our minds away. But thank you to our audience. I can't even tell you how many tweets were going out, and more people are joining us and new faces are joining our tweet chat and they're going, holy cow, why didn't I know about this? Well, it's because we didn't get to spread out the word to you fast enough. So let's get that word out there. We are giving out some great prizes. People have donated. You guys have donated prizes. Speakers have donated prizes. I mean, it's all about giving back. We're all giving back to each other to help each other grow. I love that. And you're a winner just by being here. So here's how you win. Go to twitter-winner.com. It's got all the information. It's got how to do it, where to do it. It's got a Twitter for Business kit that you can download for free. Got the coupon code. It has everything you need, all right? I'm not going to go into it right now because it's on the website. Go check it out. Be ready to go. We've got a great schedule. We've still got awesome education tonight. And if you have questions, send them to me on Twitter. I'm on there as New Life Event, or ask questions on the right-hand side. I know we're going through this education. We're not getting to all your questions, but if you listen to every single one of these experts, they keep saying, if you have questions, feel free to contact me directly. Where else are you getting the opportunity to talk to CEOs of major companies that are providing you their personal email address and saying, if you need help, there you go. Contact me. Don't abuse that, but do take advantage of that. All right, I'm going to pass on over the screen, and we're going to learn about micro versus macro conversions, and I love this stuff. I mean, I love talking about conversions because I love how making little tiny changes in a website can make huge differences. My Toy Smart, I hope she's here. She is like a perfect example of that. I did a whole entire newsletter about her and how one tiny little change made a huge difference. So you should be seeing a screen that says show my screen.
Yeah, you should see my screen right now.
Yep, I have it. You look beautiful. I am going to mute myself and let you take over.
Okay, thank you very much. Very quick introduction. My name is Schmuli Goldberg. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications at ClickTale. We're a web analytics company. I'm not going to go too much into the company itself because I think that's abusing the position as a vendor on this point. We're going to discuss today macro versus micro conversions, but I will get a little bit into it in the end to show you exactly what services we provide. So what we're going to be talking about, again, everyone lives in their conversions. Nowadays, your conversion is king, almost to the point where traffic becomes secondary to the conversion, and the most important thing most people do when they build a website is build it to sell. So what we're going to cover today is, first of all, what is a micro conversion? This is something which some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not. It's an idea first put out by Avinash Kaushik of Occam's Razor. If you're not reading his blog, you definitely should be. We're going to discuss some examples and best practices, how these are used, how you can spot a micro and macro conversion in the wild, and good ways and very bad ways to use them. And finally, we're going to talk about how to define your own micro conversions, and we're going to get down into the bread and butter, how to use them and how you make them work for you. Because we're going to take this beyond the theory of what is a micro conversion and, okay, well, how do I then use this to make money? So first of all, we're going to discuss what is a micro conversion. This is normally quite obvious when somebody tells you what it is, but you really have to understand how it works and, more importantly, how it fits in the frame of your website. A macro conversion is what we know and love. It's a visitor achieving the website's business objective. Now, note the wording. It's the visitor achieving the website's business objective. So whatever the website wants the customer to do, so the website, i.e. you, wants the customer to, let's say, purchase an item or book a flight or make a reservation, that is your macro conversion. Now, as we know today, the conversion rates on websites fluctuate between 1 to 20%, and everyone's going to have a mark somewhere between there and say, this is my website conversion. But that, in my opinion, is a flawed approach to looking at your conversion analytics. Because let's say your conversion rate is 10%, that is a great conversion rate, and that's something you should be proud of. But 90% of your customers are still there. What are they doing? They're not converting, they're bouncing. You have no idea. So the model of moving from a micro to macro conversion looks at exactly what this additional 90% are doing. Now, we define a micro conversion as a visitor achieving a mutually beneficial objective. So this is something that both you and the customer gain from. It's also a different way of looking at your site of you're not trying to push something on them. They get to take what they want. So out of the extra 90%, you may find a large amount of customers are subscribing to a newsletter, are bookmarking your site, which is a definite micro conversion, are using the Contact Us form, or using one of the many social network buttons which you probably have all over your site. Now, I want to make this clear again that these micro conversions do count for something. These are not in any way kind of airy-fairy ideas of, oh, wouldn't it be nice if more people contacted us or more people use the social network button. We define micro conversions very accurately. First of all, every micro conversion has to be absolutely definable. You have to be able to look at your homepage or looking at your shopping cart or look at each product page and say, this is the macro conversion button here. It's normally the add to cart button or whatever the macro conversion button is. This point 1, 2, and 3 are 3 individual micro conversions. So jumping it back to the e-commerce example, it could be email this product to a friend. That's a definite micro conversion. It could be, share this product on Facebook. Again, a micro conversion which you can define. It could be bookmark this page to come back later, let me know when availability comes in stock. All the small things that a customer wants to do on the site and is beneficial for you. The second thing is all micro conversions must have objective value. You have to be able to say, this micro conversion is worth this much. Now, these are normally much easier to work out than you may think. This isn't, some weird scientific. There's no, big mathematical spreadsheets into working out the value of micro conversion. All you normally have to do is, with the example that we discussed of, let's say, email this product to a friend, is use some of the tools we're going to talk about later to track those emails and see what percentage of those emails convert. If you have a social network and you're using something like Twitter or Facebook to promote your product, all you have to do is first of all work out how many tweets or how many likes you're getting, and then see how many sales you're getting from Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. And you can easily work out that 20 tweets equals 1 sale, or it could be that 1 tweet equals 5 sales. But either way, a true micro conversion has an objective value which you can find out and quantify. Third of all, micro conversions can be both long and short term. The long-term micro conversion is somebody bookmarking your site. So even though they're not buying now, by bookmarking your site, there's a higher chance that they can come back in the future and buy. And again, you can quantify that. And a short-term micro conversion is the type of thing, the Twitter or the Facebook like, something that we mentioned before. In my opinion, the greatest short-term micro conversion at all is call us. If you ever have a phone number on your website and people are calling up your phone and saying, do you have information on this product or that product, you have instantly a much higher % chance of converting them once they're on the phone and once they're in dialogue, when it's one way and they're sitting looking at a screen. Plus, you can take their name if they're willing to give it and their phone number and keep in contact with the customer and make sure the sale goes through. The fourth thing I want to point out is that these are not minor conversions. Very often, a macro conversion can be valued at less than a micro conversion. The previous example fits very, very nicely. Your conversion rate may be 15%, and your average sale could be, let's say, $20. But when somebody's on the phone to you, you know that the conversion rate goes up to 50%. So half the people that call you actually get to convert. And you may also know that of the people that phone up, end up spending a lot more on your site than the people who are dealing with a one-way shopping cart. So a micro conversion is not a minor conversion, and this could be worth a lot to the long run and to how your business eventually grows over time. Finally, all this comes to the same point, is that micro conversions directly affect your bottom line. These are things which should be taken account in budgeting. These are things that should be taken account in web design. These are things that should be taken account in marketing and branding, how you're pushing your micro conversions. And all of this comes down to the same point, is that micro conversions do have a quantitative value, which can sometimes be enormous and will directly affect your bottom line. We're going to go through a few examples here and best practices. Please feel free to throw any questions to me at all, either in the menu bar on the side or my email, which is going to come up again at the end. If you have any questions we don't have any time for today, you can send them as a tweet to me. My handle is @Schmuls. Again, you'll find out at the beginning and the end. But please do ask questions, because this is a learning experience, and the best way to walk forward is to, stop when you don't get something, find out, and I guarantee you'll learn something by the end of this. Okay, so now let's look at a really bad example of a micro-converting site. This is Ryanair website. This is a site that's based in Ireland. It's a very big site in the UK and across Europe for buying travel and buying, air flight tickets online. Now, we did a brief survey of the customers to this website, and we found out that 2 out of the 5 customers that came specifically to this site wanted to find out flight information. They've already bought a ticket through Ryanair, and they're going to be flying later the afternoon or that evening, and they want to find out, is my flight going to be on time? Now, when you actually look at the site, it's almost impossible to find out how I do this. There's no clear description anywhere that will tell an existing customer who's just gone through the effort to buy a ticket when their flight's going to be online. If you go to the website today, I think this almost hasn't changed. And if you really dig deep, you can see that over here, there's a sub-menu that says live flight info. And this is where you go to find out if your flight's going to be on time. Now, 40% of all the visitors wanted this information. And it took on average 25 seconds for a customer, once they came on this page, to actually find and get hold of the information they wanted. And I'm sure you've all been in similar situations yourself where you've booked the flight online, and booking the flight was quite easy. You can normally find out, quite simply how to book a flight and what the destinations are and what the price are. But once you've booked it, many sites leave customers in the lurch. And this is an awful experience for the customer, and therefore will lead to a much lower percentage of customers returning to book again. If we divide the site up, and this is something we're going to really focus on, is with the value of micro and macro conversions, how you divide the site up, you're going to see over here that all this, you'll have to excuse the awful drawing, is macro conversion, as is this whole section over here. This is uniquely macro conversion. All these are direct book now, win cash. They're either booked something on the site or an advert to a third-party site that gives them money. Possibly you could argue that news update over here is micro conversion, but I'd be willing to get that's for SEO purposes. This big banner over here is macro conversion, sorry. Down here, just at the bottom of the page, where you've got manage my bookings and online check-in, this is where the micro conversions pick up. Now, we know that 40% of the customers wanted the area that's in this small section down here, as well as this section up here where it says live flight info. And we also know that it was almost impossible for customers to get to this information and the information they wanted from the website itself. On a side note, as you can see around here, there are many, many calls away from the site. You've got Hertz, you've got Booking, other advertisements. Now, if these are PPC campaigns, that's not necessarily a negative way to build a site. That's a legitimate way of bringing income to your website. But again, if your customer comes to your website and you're pushing them away from your site more than you're converting them to the main major macro and micro conversions, then something's basically wrong with your design. To move on to the next slide, we're going to focus on American Airlines. Primarily because American Airlines are one of the few people out there who focused a lot on their customers' experience on the web. They use web analytics tools, they use questionnaire tools, and they really did a drastic change. So we're going to focus on the before and after and see how to fix your website if this is something which is actually happening to you. First of all, as we mentioned with, it's almost becoming a theme, obviously, the site focuses almost entirely on macro conversions. To give you a few examples, this whole book flight section you see over here is a macro conversion call to action, as is the fare sale alert over here, as is the AA news and offers over here, and as is the big advert over here that leads to information about signing up for an airline's account. Now, the small micro conversion, which is, again, in the case of the American Airlines, people wanting to find out information about their flight, about their account, all that happens down here. At the bottom here, you can see a small box with gate and times information. I apologize if I've scribbled over that, as well as flight schedules, flight status notifications. This is what, again, we believe 40% of the customers wanted to get from the site itself, but weren't able to. Again, down here you have another small micro conversion box that lets you log into your account, see your advantage miles, etc. An additional site, you lose a sense of hierarchy or flow with this website, because when a customer first comes to the page, they're hit with a lot of static information, a lot of static images, and it's very unappealing, and therefore it doesn't show the customers where to go next. So let's show what they've done today. This is their new website. If any of you use American Airlines, you'll see this obviously quite regularly. A few things to point out, first of all, is that the macro conversion is still here. They haven't played it down. Half the page over here is entirely dedicated to macro conversion. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you look at the other side, however, you have an app store. So you have a downloadable app for your iPhone or your iPad. And this is the perfect example of a micro conversion. The micro conversion itself is getting customers to download the app for two obvious reasons. First of all, downloading the app is not the major conversion point of the site. When a customer downloads the app, American Airlines don't make any money, but they can easily quantifiably work out how much this is worth in the long run. They can work out very easily that, let's say, 2 out of every 100 people that have the App Store on their phone buy a ticket that were not otherwise going to buy a ticket, and therefore it's very easy to give a quantifiable value to the App Store app. On a side point for customers that wanted flight information, it's now much clearer on the top. You have the login to your account, you have the flight status, you have my reservation and flight check-in, all on the top, all very easy to get to, and nothing's hidden below the fold. Jumping back, if I can do for 1 second, down here you're not going to get these micro conversions unless you have a high monitor or you're willing to scroll beyond the fold to see this information. However, with the new site, everything's there on top. You have the option to log into your account, see your flight status, which, as I've said, is what most people, not most, but a large percentage of customers that come to the site do. And you can check your reservations, and you can even check in online. I'm not trying to sell American Airlines here. I'm trying to sell the mentality behind the way they build their site. The travel deals over here are a macro conversion again, which is fine because the micro conversions are clear so a customer can get to them. And down here you have the AA Advantage, do more with your miles, which is a micro conversion. Of course, you have the almost mandatory social buttons, and these again are micro conversions because you can quantify the amount of people that follow me on Twitter or Facebook and YouTube and the amount of sales I get from that area. Moving on, we're going to move into the life insurance and health insurance. We can see Allstate here as an example, in my opinion, of a very poorly designed site for conversions. It's very difficult to understand what you want to do from the site from the point of the visitor. And again, this is thinking about how the visitor wants to use your site as opposed to what you want the visitor to do on the site. So the business objective is get customers to buy life insurance. From the visitor's point of view, my goal is to find information on life insurance, to compare quotes. Perhaps I have life insurance with these guys and I want to make a claim. So I'm an existing customer, I have health or life or auto insurance, and I want to make a claim with this company. How do I then get that information? What do I do? And it almost makes assumptions about user behavior by saying, well, I know my customers, I know they want life insurance, and I'm going to give it to them. But what they need is some sort of quantitative tool that would actually tell them what the customer wants out of the site. If I move this along to the next slide, and now we're looking at Blue Cross, I know it's not exactly a life insurance organization, but the point is that the micro and macro conversions are very, very clear. They're clearly working on the basis of looking at what the customers want to do when they come to the site. And the find health insurance options is the very obvious and clear macro conversion. But at the same time, they have two micro conversions. Find your blue company over here and find a doctor or hospital. And these exist for people that have already gone through the first step and have already possibly found health insurance and now want to find a local doctor or a local hospital. At the bottom over here, there are clear marketing messages, which essentially are branding for the website and SEO purposes. But when I come to the site as a visitor, I feel the website does what I need it to do. I can find health insurance options, which is the site's macro conversion, and what ideally they want 100% of traffic to do. Or I can find a doctor or hospital, which may not give any money now to this website, but they're able to know how many happy customers and how many customers return and how many customers stay with them for the longest time based on the interactions and experiences they have on their website. I'm going to want to leave time for questions at the end, so I'm going to shoot past a few of these, but one I really want to focus on is Puma.com. Puma.com is a customer of ours, so you'll have to excuse me for gloating, but they have, in my opinion, almost the perfect landing page because they have clearly defined both the macro and micro conversions, and they answer the objectives from the visitor point of view and can do what nearly every single customer wants to do on their site. First of all, again, you can see the big, clear macro conversion. Learn more about our big product, our new product, and that's fine. Again, I'm not saying push down your macro conversions. I'm saying fit them in the correct space. You can see over here, find a store is the world's greatest micro conversion. The find a store button should be essential for any website that also has a product on a shelf in a shop, because many customers want information on the product. They want to feel it in their hand, especially when we're looking at a website like Puma, which is selling shoes and clothing. People want to try it on. People want to know that shoes fit. If you're going to buy a running shoe, you need to know they're comfortable. So instead of the whole Puma website being built on pushing you, buy a shoe, buy a shoe, buy a shoe, they let you find a store. And again, it's very easy to quantify. They put this button up for 2 weeks, and they see how many more people come into Puma stores. So you can quantify the value of this, and it's almost entirely a micro conversion. It's not the main objective of the website, but it's a great way to let the customer do what they want on the website and make money at the same time. You also have at the top here a micro conversion of find a Puma store next to a macro conversion of view products. Underneath, below the fold, we see the exact same thing. Here the hot stuff bar is all new products, and this is clearly macro conversions. They want you to buy these products online. You have 4 products here, and each one, clicking on it and adding it to the shopping cart is a macro conversion. And just below that, where you have download music, watch our video, and be social, are clear micro conversions, where they want you to go on their social network, they want you to join their YouTube channel, want you to download the iTunes music and podcast that they have. But the point is very clear. Whatever you want to do as a customer on the Puma website, whatever your personal objective was for coming to this site today, we will let you do that, and we will let you achieve your goals. And by doing that, we will also achieve our own business objectives. This is a UK website, the ladders.co.uk, and this is possibly, if I can say, the worst form of macro versus micro conversions available today, because they lull you into the fact that they think they're going to give you a conversion. You have an option, as you see here, to, pardon me, you have an option here, as you can see, to put in a keyword, put in your location, and find a job. So you think you're going to be able to achieve your objective by coming to the site. And again, the twist here is looking what the customer wanted this morning when they first came to my site, as opposed to what do I want the customer to do. So you think you're going to get this information, and as a visitor you think, great, I now need to fill in 2 boxes. As soon as you fill them in, I get another field, and I get to choose my membership. Admittedly, at the top it does say it takes 30 seconds to join, but to be honest, this isn't what I wanted when I came to this website. I did not want to have to fill in forms. You've given me the form already. I filled in the form already. What's next? And there's only one clear macro conversion. Nowhere here are you alleviating my fears of what's happening with this information. Nowhere here are you giving me options based on what I want to do. And worse comes when you click on this Join the Ladders now. The next step asks you to upload your CV. Now, if you look at the conversion funnel, which is the percentage of people that go from page A to page B to page C, and then finally to page D, which is the conversion, this is a guess, but I'm guessing their rates are abysmal, because every step is almost a slap in the face, where I give you what I think I need to give to get my objective, and instead of you giving me what I want, you're giving me another task. Now I have to upload my CV. And all I wanted to know was what jobs you have available in my area. And surely a micro conversion much earlier on at this stage, when I put in my information, yes, you can still give me my form. Yes, you're a lead generation software, and I understand you want my information, but you've got a big space over here, and there's no reason why you can't put over here top 10 jobs in your area, or share this information with a friend, or is this confusing you? Call us on 1-800, etc. And any one of these micro conversions are guaranteed to get customers who have reached this point and are confused or irritated and not sure what to do next, but will get them to do an action that will make a difference to your business. This could be, again, customers calling you up and you discussing their future because you have a higher chance of converting them in the future, or making a direct sale online. With social media, things like job searches are very, very social. When people move companies, everyone knows about it, and it's a great opportunity to spread the word. I found this job on XY website, theladders.co.uk. And this is almost a missed opportunity, and why, I think this is a really good example to see of how not to use micro conversions in your site. I'm going to stop for 1 second. Sean has asked me to announce the Twitter winner. So the last person to tweet, I believe, gets a prize. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And actually, it's Elliot8082 who retweeted Majestic Jewelry and said, "Don't make me work to give up my money." And so right before you got started, I was talking about how excited I was that about how one very tiny little itty bitty change would make a huge difference in your conversions. And I mentioned a video I did about one of our attendees here that I did in our newsletter and how much of a change it made. And so what we are going to do, actually, Elliot, this prize is from me. What we are going to do is you and I are going to get on the phone, and we are going to sit on the phone for an hour or two, whatever we're going to be doing, and we are going to figure out what are those little changes that we need to make to your website to get that huge change. So that is what you and I are going to do, Elliot8082. We are going to sit on the phone and figure out what are these changes you can make on your website to get huge changes. So thank you very much, and thank you, My Toy Smart, for letting me share your story so that I can share education with other people. And I will mute myself so you can continue. Everybody's loving this. They are loving the examples and everything about this, so thank you.
Not a problem at all. Okay, so we're going to now try and break this down into the day-to-day business. How do I do this? I mean, it's very nice to see the examples and say, wow, these guys did it right, these guys did it wrong, but how do I do it on my website? And more importantly, and I cannot say this enough, how do I make micro conversions make me money? It's very nice to think, well, I need to put more Twitter, I need to do more Facebook, I should offer a newsletter, I should let people phone me up. But you have to quantify, you have to know what's working, you have to know what's making you money. And if you're going to put the effort into something and it's not going to pay off, it's not worth doing. So knowing how to do it right from the beginning is a great way to make sure that micro conversions really work for you. So this is a 3-step process. And it may seem daunting when you look at each step individually, but it really does fit quite easily, and it really doesn't take a long time to do at all. So the first thing you have to do is define a micro conversion on your website. In a minute, I'll show you the tools that you do to do that. Pardon me. I'll show you the tools that you can use to do that. But it really is important to know what your micro conversions are. It's not marketing. It's not branding. It's not something which you've run a campaign and now somebody comes from that campaign. That's not a micro conversion. That's good. That's great. Keep that up. Marketing is, we live and breathe it every single day. But that is not a micro conversion, and you need to know what your micro conversions are. The second thing, as we've mentioned time and time again, and again I'm about to show you the tools that you can use to do this, is to assign each micro conversion a fixed value. You have to know that one tweet is worth $4 to me. You have to know that when somebody calls me up, they have a 50% chance of conversion, and my average order rate is $100. So each phone call that I receive is worth $50. If somebody downloads a newsletter and you know the percentage of customers coming from your newsletter and buying a product, again, you've got to give a fixed value. And finally, when building your website and building your landing pages and working out how to split things such as your budget and your manpower, you have to prioritize based on the total value that each micro conversion brings en masse. So if each tweet is worth $2 or $3, and we work that out, and by putting a Twitter button big front and center, you can get 1,000 tweets, for example, then that may be worth more to you than a single macro conversion of somebody buying a product on your website. And assigning priorities based on total value means that we often get customers of ours surprised that their micro conversions are making them more money on an ongoing basis than their macro conversions. So for step one, to define your micro conversions, there are 3 tools we strongly recommend. First of all, if you're not already using Google Analytics, you absolutely have to. It's a free tool and it takes 2 minutes to set up. So there's absolutely no excuse not to install it. If you have installed, great. If not, the first thing after the seminar this evening, get it, sign up, and run it. It's free, and it will give you raw quantitative data about your website. It will know how many people come from each campaign you're running. It will let you know how many people are coming to each specific product page. And for defining the value of a micro conversion, again, if you know that you have 50 tweets, and that gives you 5 inbound leads, and 1 of those converts, that information you can get very easily from Google Analytics. The next tool we recommend is our own, which is ClickTale. We offer a set of tools and analytics not offered by Google Analytics or any other tool in the marketplace, because we focus entirely on what happens inside the page. So once a customer comes into your page and spends 30 seconds reading your copy, looking at your text, clicking on images, that's where Google Analytics kind of stops and takes a step back and goes, well, I don't know what happens then. I can count. And we show you what actually happens inside the page itself. We do that by showing you visitor recordings of customers inside your web pages, as well as form analytics that show you how well forms such as your shopping cart are doing inside the page. You may have a specific field which is pushing customers away. You may have a specific question in your sign-up process which you may not even know it, but is stopping your customers converting. We also offer visual heat maps, very, very importantly when designing micro conversions, that show you what customers are looking at and what customers are trying to click on. So if you do have a phone number, you can easily see how many people are moving their mouse over the phone number, are looking at the phone number. If you have social media buttons, you can see how many people are actually getting drawn to those social media buttons. Maybe they're just completely anonymous to the visitor, and they don't see them at all. Either way, heat maps will show you where customers pay attention. And again, this is vital for working out what the customer wants to get from his website. We always see on e-commerce websites that there's a big banner somewhere that says, for example, free shipping, or closing down sale, or a half price till Christmas, and customers click on that. Now that's a micro conversion. That's something the customer wanted to know more information about, and we can prove that by showing him more information, he's more likely to convert. People want free shipping, and they click on the banner that says free shipping. And by using a heat map, you can work out how many people go straight for your main call to action button of buy now, whatever the objective of the website is, give me your lead now, book a restaurant now, and how many people go for see more information. And essentially, we'll help you define the value of each individual event and each individual button on your website. Finally, we offer full-scale conversion funnels, which are dynamic and can be changed on the fly to find out how customers move through your site. And again, taking this back to the the first examples we looked at where customers to, let's say, a travel website want travel information more than they want to book a ticket, the conversion funnels will show you exactly where customers want to go through your site, what paths they want to take. And unlike other tools that you have to define the path and then you get to see how many customers move through this set path, we let your customers define the path by working on how many people click on a certain button, and it expands naturally from there. What percentage of these customers, what do they do next? And it breaks down in real time, it's all dynamic, and it's really a vital tool to working out what the customer wants to achieve. The last tool that you have to use for your micro conversions is 4Q Survey. Again, every tool I'm mentioning here today, including our own, has free versions or next to nothing versions, and is a great way to understand what the customer wants. The 4Q Survey is based on the principle that by asking your customers 4 questions, you can find out everything you need to know about their website experience. And these include, what did you want when you came to my site today? What was your objective? Question 2 is, were you able to meet this objective? It's a simple yes or no. I came for product information. Were you able to find it? Yes or no. Third of all, if you were able to find it, how quickly did you find it? And if you didn't, why not? And this can normally give you a lot of great feedback and a lot of information that the customer wants to give you. If you've ever been on a site and you've got frustrated not being able to do a certain action, this will let the customers tell you. It's not a big feedback tool like some of the other products out there, which are also valuable, but take a lot of time from your customers and therefore less likely to be filled in. For just defining your micro conversion, this is all you need. And you've got from the top, which is the Google Analytics, which is a huge amount of quantitative data, to ClickTale, which is a qualitative look at that data, and down to the individual with a 4Q survey to find out exactly what an unique individual customer is thinking. So these are the tools that you need to use to define your micro conversions. The second one is often, as we've already said, it seems harder and is often more misunderstood. And again, it comes down to giving a dollar value to every single button on your website. Now, this does seem daunting, but once you start doing it, it's much easier than it first seems. You don't have to bring out heavy Excel spreadsheets. You don't have to bring out calculators. It's normally very straightforward. The tools you need to do this are, first of all, Google Analytics. As we mentioned, they can track a customer lifecycle, and it's very easy to see through the customer history what happened at the beginning that made them eventually buy. And working backwards, you can use that tool to define a dollar value to any event. The next one we recommend is Uberview, which is a social networking analytics that will easily search the entire Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, MySpace, and every other social network out there and give you accurate results about your entire social view, if you will. And this is a great way to define the value of each individual tweet or each individual Facebook like. You can see that on X day you had 50 people on MySpace rave about you, and you know that you had 5 conversions or 5 or 6 sales over your average. On a certain day, on a bigger business scale, you had 2,000 tweets and you had 200 extra sales than you were expecting to get. And then it's very simply a question of dividing one by the other, and you've got the value of a tweet, and you've got the value of a Facebook like. Again, we recommend ClickTale for this. We have event-based conversions, which fits straight into the conversion funnel. So we can show you if a customer came from Twitter, what were their odds of converting? If a customer came from a specific email campaign, what were their odds of converting? If a customer came from a specific ad keyword or SEO word, what were their odds of converting? And when you combine this into, a sign with getting customers to sign up for newsletters or getting customers to call in, it's very easy to work out based on the event, what were the conversion odds? So you know that 20% of people that came from your newsletter converted, you know how much a sale's worth, you know how many people get your newsletter, and you've worked out the value of somebody signing up to your newsletter. The next tool is FeedBurner, which is a great way to collect RSS feed information. A blog is a micro conversion waiting to happen, not only for SEO purposes and SEM purposes, but for the purpose of getting customers to come back to your site again and again, and getting customers to recognize your brand name. if you have somebody subscribe to your RSS feed, that is a micro conversion. You know, let me keep you updated automatically is an obvious micro conversion, and using something like FeedBurner is a way to quantify that. You can get to see how many people are actually following your RSS feed, how many people click through, and how many people buy. And again, this comes down to quantifying the value of your blog. And you can turn around and go, my blog is worth $700, for example, and therefore if I have a customer who's going to spend $200 on my site or sign up to the RSS feed for my blog, which is worth $700, it's very easy to assign each micro conversion a value, and therefore when you're building your website, when you're pushing people through landing pages, let them go where they want to go and make you money at the same time. Finally, the last tool we mentioned here is Bitly, which is a way, I'm sure many of you have seen this, it's a URL shortener. It sounds quite simple, but when you're tracking people online through Twitter, Facebook, etc., it's very easy to work out where people come from, and more importantly, you can then easily show that into conversions. So if they come through a Bitly link, you know they came through a Bitly link, and you're able to work out this specific link was seen by 25 people on Twitter. Again, it got 12 people clicking through, and it made 2 sales. So I know this Bitly link went on this Twitter page, and it comes down to working out the value of each individual link on the internet. The third step, and this is normally the hardest to, if you have a boss that you're working for, one of the hardest to convince him to do. If you own your own website, it's when you're putting it into practice, it's one of the hardest to do, because you're turning around to yourself and you're saying, well, you know, 80% of my space is directed toward micro conversions and getting people to buy my product. But I want people to buy my product, so why would I ever take down this 80% of space, which is pushing people to buy, and fill it up with subscribe to my newsletters or call me with more information? So what we beg you to do is assign priorities based on total value. Again, if you can see that your Twitter retweet is worth $5, and you know that if you make this bigger, you'll have 100 people clicking retweet, then this button is worth $500 to you. But if you know that a second button, which is, let's say, the, you know, see our latest products, or put this product in your cart today, is going to make you let's say $100 a click, and only 5% of all people click on that, then it's a very nice business decision to be able to say, well, let's make the Twitter bigger because that's making us more money. And I'm not minimizing the call to action that says, you know, add to cart, because I know what that's working at. I know that's making 5%, and I know that's making $100 a sale. So I'm not saying minimize on the macro conversion, but I'm saying that the micro conversion has to have equal value if it's making you an equal amount of money. Some great tools we recommend for this, first of all, is concept feedback, where every time you do a web redesign, you have to put your content on concept feedback. It's a lovely community of people, both expert and non-expert, and there's actually a value of both. The expert will look at your sign and they'll talk about frame space, and they'll talk about flow, and they'll talk about business behavior, and non-experts will look at your site and say, oh, I can't find the call to action button, or what do I do next? And you want both levels of feedback, and it's a great way to get it for essentially nothing whatsoever. 5-second test is a lovely website for, again, uploading your design, and you ask people to look at it just for 5 seconds and see what they will come away with. So after 5 seconds, where's my call to action button? What were you most likely to click on? What image did you get from the website? What text jumped out at you? And when you're assigning priorities and you know that, let's say, somebody's signing up to a newsletter, or somebody getting contact us information, or find my nearest store is worth a certain amount of money, and buying online is worth a different amount of money, you want to make sure that customers are able to see your most valuable asset first and foremost. Another tool we recommend is Visual Website Optimizer. It's a great A/B testing tool, and if you're not doing A/B testing, you should. It's a lovely way to test different landing pages and see what converts better. Another similar website is Google Website Optimizer. In my personal humble opinion, Visual Website Optimizer is better. It handles a lot of things much easier and much cleaner, but Google Website Optimizer has one big bonus, which is it plugs in nicely, obviously, with Google Analytics. So if you already have Google Analytics, then you have a choice between the two. Check them both out and see what you want. And finally, use MailChimp. I mean, there are other email campaign programs out there, and they're all pretty much the same, and they're all very good. I personally like MailChimp, but again, it is a question of looking to see what you like. It's a great way of assigning value to email campaigns. So if you have a newsletter and you let people subscribe to it on your homepage or on your blog, it's a lovely way of working out how much value that newsletter is bringing in, and therefore how much emphasis you should put on getting customers to actually sign in through the email campaign, or getting people to sign up for a newsletter, or email this page or product to a friend. We're very, very short on time here, so there are other things that I'd love to go over. I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm happy to take any questions you guys have now. And if there's anything else I missed, feel free to stick it up on Twitter afterwards. I'll do my best to answer you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful information. Some of the questions that we're getting is, how do we properly track sites that reside on different domains, but we use a shopping cart on a different common site?
That depends on the Web Analytics tool. They all have different ways of getting around that. But often you can define a conversion if you're willing, based on, you don't necessarily have to track both sides. I mean, there is an argument to track the customer all the way from beginning to end, but in my opinion, you can use a rough rule of averages, which is that I know that, let's say 75 people a day click on my add to cart button, and I get 70 conversions, then I'm losing out 5 at a time, and therefore it doesn't really matter what these 5 guys are when you're looking at the big picture. What matters is that within your shopping cart, you're losing a certain percentage. As I mentioned, there are tools to track this, but this doesn't really come into the micro versus macro scheme of things, because of that you can just look at big picture numbers for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the next one is, do heat maps have a lot of plug-in issues?
Well, I can only talk for us, but we've got over 35 different built-in plugins. We support everything from basic HTML to ASP to PHP to everything else. So I can again only speak for us, and we're the vendor. So obviously we like our tool, but we don't have any issues with additional plugins at all.
And as Kat just pointed out, she got back just in right time. He just said it depends.
Yes.
She has a mission. We're calling her the Depends Lady, that every speaker is going to say it depends. And I think we are pretty much 100% at this point. All right. Great question. What is a VOC?
Sorry, I should have made that clear. A VOC stands for Voice of Customer. It's those small things that pop up in the corner saying, do you have any feedback about our website? There are a few out there. Campile's a good one to use. There are others as well. The reason why we specifically mention 4Q is because it is the shortest and simplest VOC, and believe it or not, to an advantage, it doesn't let you define questions. We've used the one where we define our own questions. We still use it today, but it can spend hours working out what questions to ask, how to word the questions, etc. And 4Q Survey has 4 fixed questions that they've tried and tested, and will save you all the time of working out what should I be asking my customers.
Mm-hmm. And you could spend so much time on figuring out how you're going to ask those questions when you can just stick up something that says, here's the questions and get the feedback now. Exactly. This is another great one. Could you touch on polygons?
More specifically?
More specifically, okay. Help us what more you want to know about, or what do you want to know specifically. Do you prefer Constant Contact versus iConnect versus MailChimp?
Right. We recommend MailChimp. No, I'm not saying it depends. I'm now very wary of those 2 lovely words. Although you should know that the reason that is the case is because when you're dealing with e-businesses, everyone genuinely is unique. There is no such thing as a cookie-cutter website. So in most cases, it generally does depend. What's your website for? What do your customers want? And are they able to achieve it? And normally it does depend. For this one, I'm not going to answer by saying it depends. I like MailChimp purely from the ease of use angle. Constant Contact is also great. It's made generally for larger organizations, and it hits like a happy medium when you've got hundreds of thousands of people that you're speaking to. Exact Target's the same. It works very well on the high level. MailChimp is a great example of, I have 100 people, I have 1,000 people, wow, look at me, I've got 20,000 people, and it will cope with that growth very rapidly. And that's, a great thing to have. But when you start off and you have, your first person, you can still run an email campaign with one person. And then it builds up gradually, or it builds up, quickly. Either's fine, and, one is not necessarily better than the other. But it's very scalable. Another one on the same type of level is Contactology, which also kind of lets you start small and grow bigger. Constant Contact and Exact Target and the other big players you mentioned are more built for enterprise, and therefore they're much harder to use when you only really have in the hundreds or thousands of people following your emails.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thing to kind of touch up here. We talk about the micro versus macro, and for those of you that were with me last night, and I was showing you how in 2 giveaways that I did for the blog. Remember that business, by just doing 2 giveaways that only cost me, the first giveaway cost me $17.50, and the second giveaway is costing me $20. You have to remember that I also now have 700 people actively wanting to engage with me on Facebook. So I'm getting a totally different type of conversion that is completely different than anything else, because now I have so much more of an opportunity to connect with them, to listen to them, to engage with them, and that's the type of conversion I wanted to focus on so I can build a long-lasting relationship. So that's something you want to think about. Well, I did this, maybe you're going to try a giveaway and you're like, I did this giveaway and nobody bought from me. Okay, but you just now gained 400 new people from wherever, and now they're following your every word because they want to know more. Hello? This is unlimited sales potential if you handle this correctly. So I want people to think about that. We went through this whole thing last night about building and understanding it. So thank you so much for being here with us. I know that we're up on our time, and I got to bring up our new speaker here soon. So I do appreciate you being here. You got to check out Twitter, because there's lots of messages for you and lots of great things being said. So you will definitely have to check that out before you leave today. You will have to check that out. It's just awesome.